Wu bully her with a grieved expression, and then Yurihong helped her comb her hair again. Didn't you agree to teach N.A.N ninjutsu by the chief Hyaga? After so long, you haven't taught anything yet. Ta Rihong patted Wu-an. A child's body should start at the age of 5 to practice physique. It will damage her body if it is too early. Wu-an lay on the tatami, and kept throwing the little Hinata up, catching, throwing up, catching and playing. Yuri gave him a red and white look, and grabbed Hinata directly, and said angrily, "Don't make trouble, Hinata is not your toy." With that said, Yurihong hugged Hinata into the courtyard and said gently, "Hinata, today I will teach you how to use chakra, okay?" N.A.N nodded milkily. It should be said that her personality is like this, basically other people's requirements, as long as it is not too exaggerated, she will agree. At night, after Tsunade came back, he said to Wu-an, "There is something, are you interested in investigating it?" Wu-an raised his eyes and said, "What? The recent Kirigakur is very strange." Tsunade sat down and said, "More and more rebels from Mist Shinobi appeared in the southern part of the Fire Country. It is said that they could not stand the rule of 4th Mizukage Yagura and escaped." In Tsunade's detailed narrative, Wu-an etal no. It turns out that now Mist Shinobi has entered the so-called Blood Mist era. Somehow 4th Mizukage Yagura has a radically changed temperament compared to his predecessor. It adopts a closed-door policy, strictly controls the communication between ninjas, and reuses torture. Other citizens of the country that made water also resisted the ninja very much. Many Mist Shinobi ninjas were miserable and began to flee to other villages in Water Country. However, because the people of Water Country are extremely disgusted with ninjas, once they find ninjas, they will try their best to expel them, even children. Although the country of water and the country of fire are separated by the sea, Mist Shinobi has also jumped to the border of the country of fire, and it brought a lot of commotion. Tsunade felt that it was necessary to investigate. Wu-an didn't think much, and promised, "Alright, I haven't seen what Kirigakur is like yet. Go to Mist Shinobi. I want me too." When Anko heard this, he shouted with enthusiasm. Tsunade glanced at Samehada, who was carrying Anko behind his back. "You dress up to Mist Shinobi too conspicuously, right? It doesn't matter, I can put Samehada in the summoning scroll." Anko smiled. Just like Tenten, one of the next 12 Xiaoqiang, at Anko's strong request, Wu-an finally agreed to take her with him. Ta Rihong thought for a while, but did not go together. The reason is to take care of Hinata. It would be fine to send her back to the Hyaga family, but Yurihong refused on the grounds that "I didn't teach anything but the chief Hyaga knew how to explain it." However, in Wu-an's opinion, it should be Hong who likes Hinata too much and is reluctant to send her back. In short, in such a decision, Wu-an and Anko embarked on a journey to Kirigakur, the country of water. I took a boat to the nation of water by sea, and then, as he approached the pier of nation of water, the boat owner feared that he did not want to go any further. Because in recent years, Water Country has adopted a closed-door policy and does not interact with any outside figures. Sometimes even ships close to the border of the Water Country are rigorously searched and even taken away. Therefore, all boatmen dare not go to the Water Country. The reason why this ship sent Wu-an and Anko so far is because Wu-an has revealed his identity. The reason. Otherwise, he is not willing to sail at all. Perceived by seeing, hearing and color, the border terminal of Water Country is less than 10 kilometers. It is completely possible to perceive the direction of the past. Wu-an didn't have trouble with the store, and directly crossed the water with Anko to the Water Country with Anko. Although Chakra still used a mess, except for 8 inner gates, he could not know other ninjutsu, but Wu-an would still be able to step on water and climb trees. The closer to the land of the Water Country, the denser the fog. Anko, who included Samehada in the weapon scroll, said, "No wonder it's called Mist Shinobi, the fog here is too thick, right?" If it weren't for Wu-an to lead him, Anko felt that he would be lost in this thick fog. However, Wu-an said at this moment, "No, this is not a naturally formed fog, but Mist Shinobi's masterpiece Mist Shinobi technique." What? Anko was surprised that such a wide range of Mist Shinobi techniques cannot be done by one person. At least several, or even dozens of ninjas can be released together to shroud a sea area in thick fog. Wu-an's pupils condensed. In an instant, Conqueror's haki, majestic like a tsunami, was towards the direction of Mizuno Kuni Pier. On the coast, more than a dozen Mist Shinobi ninjas were shocked by Conquerors, their eyes whitened, and they fainted. Without their chakra supply, the smoke that permeated the sea quickly dissipated. Anko raised his eyes again and looked forward, and he could see the land of the Water Country from afar. It's worthy of being a teacher, already able to attack such a far place. Anko admired Wu-an's arm and said. Wu-an blinked his eyes, not knowing if it was an illusion. It feels that Anko has become more and more close to him recently. Although she was like this when she was a child, she feels that she has become more intensified in recent times. Ascend to the land of the Water Country and watch the Mist Shinobi ninjas who fainted due to Conqueror's impact. Anko couldn't help but smiled and said, "It takes such a lot of trouble to prevent people from other countries from coming to the land of water. Why did 4th Mizukage do this? At least it means that he has a shameful secret." Wu-en said. I heard that 4th Mizukage Yagura is a genius. When he first became Mizukage in his early years, he could perfectly control the power of 3 tails. At that time, I thought he would become a great Mizukage. Anko followed Wu-en. At this time, Wu-en took off her and his Konoha forward protector and said, after stepping on this land, we will no longer be Konoha shinobi. Anko laughed and said, I thought that with N.A.N's fearless character, I wouldn't care about it. I am too lazy to get into unnecessary trouble. Wu-en raised his fingers and knocked Anko's head. Gang Chi solved more than a dozen missed shinobi ninjas, but the system progress did not increase at all. It should be said that to evolve Garp's development to this level, it is not the peak of Jonin, or even the opponent of Cage level, that it can no longer evolve. Even if Wu-en took the initiative to provoke those missed shinobi ninjas to try to improve the progress, it would be useless. It was past dusk, and Wu-en felt that there was no need to take advantage of the night to continue on the road. Decided to live directly in the first village. But what is unexpected is that, because 4th Mizukage Yagura has implemented a closed-door policy for many years, no merchants from other countries have contact with the country of water, let alone tourists. Many hotels went bankrupt directly. Only a few hotels that rely on the sponsorship of domestic vendors and barely maintain business are still operating. The two walked through 2 villages before they found one. Except for 2 people, there is no third guest in the whole hotel. At this time, the night had already fallen. After many years of sleeping outside of home, Wu-en didn't feel too uncomfortable. After lying on the sofa for a while, I felt sleepy. Big. Anko glared at him, took a breath and sat on Wu-en's knees, explaining this as one at least it's softer than a stone, and it's easier to sit on a leather belt. Suddenly, there was a turbulence in the front, and the violent splash wave seemed to be impacted by a bomb, rushing towards the 2 of them at a speed sufficient to pierce the skin of a person. Along the way, I don't know how many big trees were broken. Wu-en and Anko can see at a glance that this is the power that can be created by A-level water-style ninjutsu. To be able to use such a water style is at least the level of the Jonin elite. Wu-en squinted his eyes and said, then moved Anko away from his body. 523, stood up and turned his head and said, does the skin still hurt? Shudder. It's all caused by you. Anko rubbed it twice and murmured, I feel like I can't fight yet, damn it. I want the guys at Mist Shinobi to see how I use same hata. While the 2 were talking, the turmoil in the front continued. A white mist struck, making Anko subconsciously stunned, and couldn't help but recall what happened when he was about to arrive in the country of water yesterday. Is it Mist Shinobi technique? However, the facts immediately proved that she was wrong. In this white mist, the surrounding trees seemed to have been eroded by sulfuric acid and all turned into mud and dropped on the ground. This is boil style. Wu-en opened his mouth. In the 3rd Ninja War, Rock Shinobi's 5 tails Jinchuriki Han is the user of boil style. This kind of blood continues to limit, has extremely high temperature and corrosiveness. The user of Mist Shinobi who appeared in the original book, is it? Wu-en's heart moved, and then he said to Anko, you can't move, I'll check it out. After that, Wu-en disappeared in an instant, but in fact, he was advancing at an extremely fast speed that the naked eye could not discern. Anko unhappily threw a fist at Wu-en's back. Under Yagura's rule, don't you see what Mist Shinobi becomes like? Now what we have to do is to overthrow his reign of terror and let Mist Shinobi reopen to the outside world. An assassin group of Mist Shinobi wearing masks was surrounded by Yamato Wu-en, who resembled Yamato Wu-en, who was just an 18-year-old girl. Gritted her teeth and shouted. However, these masked ninjas didn't say a word, just squeezed the weapons such as senbon or ninja sword in their hands even more. The girl has an extremely delicate face, even better than Anko. A waist-length burgundy long hair blocks one right eye, making it even more seductive. The figure also fully interprets the letter S. Only now, not the time to care about these. And this girl is the 5th Mizukage of Mist Shinobi in the future, and she is also an extremely rare ninja with 2 blood inheritance boundaries. In fact, Terumi Mei could not understand Yagura's reign of terror in the early years. Now, she has awakened 2 kinds of blood succession limits, and at the same time her strength has also been promoted to Quasi Cage level. So she secretly organized a group of people who had the same ideas as her and hoped to overthrow the rule of Yagura and carry out revolutionary resistance. However, I don't know why, Yagura's eyesight in the village seems to be completely beyond Terumi Mei's imagination. Before the operation officially started, it was swept away by Yagura's people. All the revolutionaries fled separately. She was also chased here by Yagura's assassination unit. Although trying to persuade these people, it seems useless. Lava-style solving monster technique. Unlike Lao Zi, both of which are high-temperature magma, Terumi Mei's lava style pays more attention to erosion and corrosion. However, although she is already a master of Quasi Cage level, but Yagura was obviously paying for her to deal with her. This group of assassination troops were all composed of Jonin-class ninjas. Everyone flashed and quickly avoided Terumi Mei's attack. Although one of them was attacked by the arm, he did not hesitate to disperse it with the instant technique first, and then used the Mist Shinobi sword technique to attack Terumi Mei from various angles. Water-style Water Dragon Bomb. In the end, the 5th Mizukage in the future will use the Water Dragon Bomb for attack as a defense to isolate all attacks from 360 degrees. Water-style Water Gun. Wind-style Strong Cut. However, the opponent was also an assassination unit all organized by Jonin, and immediately used a combination of ninjutsu to bridge the gap in strength. The combination of wind and water cut a hole in Terumi Mei's Water Dragon Bomb, followed by another assassination team, Jonin, with a knife quickly. 3.3 The shadow of the knife flashed, leaving a blood mark on Terumi Mei's right arm. Terumi Mei gritted her teeth secretly. I have consumed a lot of chakra before, and have to deal with so many Jonin at once. Do I really want to explain it here? But Wu-Wen, who had already arrived, was not in a hurry to go to the hero to save the United States. Instead, he used sight and hearing to probe the members of these mist shinobi assassination troops. Some people are normal. But for a part, Wu-Wen felt a familiar and strange chakra leaning over them. This chakra is white Zetsu. In fact, Wu-Wen has always been a little confused about Obito's use of pupil technique to control 4th Mizukage and the rule of the blood mist period in Kirigakure. Because Obito has a pupil technique that is almost bug kamui. But with the pupil power of his one-eyed Mangekyo, it should be almost the limit to be able to control a shadow. It is unimaginable to be able to control an entire shinobi village or a big village like Mist Shinobi for so many years. But if there is absolutely no help, it is much easier to explain. Moreover, Black Zetsu is still Kagaya G's will, and his strength is a mystery in the eyes of Wu-Wen, a traverser. That Terumi Mei won't just die like this, right? Wu-Wen looked good at the show. Boil style Chiao Mist technique. Once again, use the boil style that blocks the line of sight and can trigger an attack. But this time it is clear that Terumi Mei is not trying to attack, but to interfere with the enemy's line of sight. After reducing the visibility of this area to less than 1 meter, Terumi Mei turned and ran towards Wu-Wen where most of the Jonin of the Mist Shinobi assassination unit were blocked by N.A.N technique, but 2 of them rushed over along Terumi Mei's 23 movement position. Obviously, they are perceptual ninjas. Duh. Terumi Mei gritted her teeth, trying to speed up her escape. But at this moment, the wound on the leg that had previously been injured by the raid by Yagura's men with Kirigakure suddenly went in, and blood gushed directly from the ninja fishnet stockings like a tap. With a winged footstep, the 2 sentient Jonin rushing behind have aimed at the mobile hand at this moment. Ninfa Water-style Water Gun. Earth-style Soil Sticks. Upon seeing this, Terumi Mei hurriedly blocked Ji-In, Water-style Puffy. However, Ji-In was just barely knotted, and the wound on his arm was torn open like a foot, and blood gushed out from it. He watched the double attacks of Water-style and Earth-style rush towards him. A look of despair appeared in Terumi Mei's eyes. Whoosh! Suddenly, a white shadow flashed before Terumi Mei could see clearly. I saw the figure in front of me lifted one of his feet, and slashed down again in a high cheating posture. Boom! When the soles of the feet hit the ground, the scenes that occurred in front of me could be described as landslides and cracks. The land several hundred meters in radius was shattered at this moment and turned into fragmented clods. Because of the huge impact, the clods were all blown up in one go, and naturally the 2 sensing Jonin's attacks were also attacked. All offset. Even hit back. Even the Kiowa technique that Terumi Mei used just now to escape. In the hurricane generated by the explosive force of this foot, the smoke that was blown disappeared. What? The members of the Mist Shinobi assassination unit on the opposite side were caught off guard. Terumi Mei, who was half kneeling on the ground because of the pain from her body, raised her head and looked forward. The ground within the visible range in front of him is completely turned into a rugged ruin, and the bodies of the members of the Mist Shinobi assassination unit can still be vaguely seen. What kind of power is this person who can do this kind of thing? Terumi Mei couldn't help swallowing her saliva and looked sideways at Wu-Wen's back. At this moment, Wu-Wen turned his head halfway, and Terumi Mei's right half of his face caught sight of Terumi Mei. Sure enough, it's you, Terumi Mei exclaimed. Although she hasn't seen it with her own eyes, as the person who killed 3rd Mizukage, who doesn't know about Mist Shinobi. What's more, at that time, Terumi Mei was already Genin. It's just that it has not been officially sent to the battlefield. Achievement Mist Shinobi Assassination Unit, Template Character Monkey D. Garp, Completion Rate 91.86%. Damn it. Hearing the sound from the system in his brain, Wu-Wen almost didn't scold him. There were nearly 10 Jonin who were killed just now, right? Not even 0.5%? Although as it grows, the progress value increases more and more slowly, but Wu-Wen did not expect to have reached this level. I am afraid that, except for those who are above the cage level, or have achieved a victory that is vital to the plot, it is difficult to grow. But fortunately, immediately, there was another voice from the system revolutionaries who failed to achieve special achievements. Terumi Mei, Template Character Monkey D. Garp, Completion Rate 93.12%. Wu-Wen looked at him and turned around to reach out to Terumi Mei. Hey, are you okay? Terumi Mei was stunned for a while, hesitated for 2 seconds, and stretched out his hand. Thank you, thank you. I just wanted to put that soft, boneless hand on Wu-Wen's palm. As soon as she put her feet up and tried to stand up, Terumi Mei winged up and almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, Wu En's hand has been held in time. It seems that before I met you, I was seriously injured. Wu En glanced at the wounds of Terumi Mei's body, and then picked up the princess and the stunned eyes of the other party. So, now what do you plan to do with 523? Do you plan to go back to Kirigakur? Terumi Mei's heartbeat was overshadowed by the sense of crisis in the current situation in just an instant, and smiled bitterly. How can I be able to return to Kirigakur? I just escaped from there. A warm sensation came from the left hand holding Terumi Mei's retreat. Wu En knew that was the reason why her wound was still bleeding. Well, let you heal your injury first, although I don't know how to treat ninjutsu, so are the people I brought here. Install. Before Wu En spoke, I saw Anko hurried over. Although the pace was still a bit weird, if you didn't look closely, you couldn't see it anymore. With you, I have another one in such a short time. Although Anko's personality is not the kind of aggressive and jealous type, but he just gave him last night, and this happened today. As long as she really has feelings for Wu En, it is impossible to be indifferent. Now Princess Wu En is holding Terumi Mei and can't draw her hand. Otherwise, you will definitely give Anko a thump. Well, first take her to heal her injuries. You can't get medical ninjutsu anymore, right? You have to find a hospital, Wu En said, and went back and forth. Aren't we going to Kirigakur? Anko followed Wu En and asked curiously. A small town in the water country where I lived before. Terumi Mei, who turned into an ordinary woman using the transfiguration technique, was simply treated under the bandage of the doctor. According to Terumi Mei, she is now the most wanted object of Mist Shinobi, and even the entire water country. In a place like a small town, she must not show her true colors. After simply dealing with the injury, Terumi Mei immediately said that he had to leave, because Yagura's chasing soldiers would come soon. However, Wu En easily said that Yagura's pursuers would not come. Terumi Mei was extremely puzzled about this. But seeing Wu En's understatement, and the powerful power she had shown before, she could not even imagine. In the end, I chose to believe him. The reason Wu En is so confident is because he had sensed it through observation haki when he killed the Mist Shinobi assassination troops just now. White Zetsu, who was attached to some of them, slipped away through Earth Style. They will definitely report this to the leader who controls Yagura. Obito knew that he had come and would never send a chase. On the contrary, he would hide. This is why Wu En decided not to go to Kirigakur. After all, the black hands behind Obito are hidden, and there is no possibility of any receipt after going. The three of them stayed temporarily in a hotel. In the room, Terumi Mei told Wu En that she couldn't stand the blood mist rule of Yagura and organized a rebel army secretly, but was easily defeated by Yagura. Anyway, she is also a desperado now, there is nothing to hide. Wu En was not surprised. After all, White Zetsu's intelligence capabilities are not covered. The third ninja war was because they leaked information to Rock Shinobi. In the early stage, Konoha only defeated Rock Shinobi, and even White Fang died. Terumi Mei and the others did this trick in the village. It's weird if they can't find out. So what? What do you plan to do next? Wu En asked. Terumi Mei pressed Sakura's lips, her beautiful face showed a bitter color. I can only escape, but I hope that while fleeing, I will pull up a new revolutionary army, and when the time is right, I will turn Yagura's blood again. The fog rains. From Terumi Mei's words, Wu En can almost infer what she has been doing in the original work this time. I am afraid that in the past few years until the opening of the original plot, Terumi Mei is like this. While avoiding the chase from Obito, he secretly gathered people like Ao and Kojuro. In the end, it was precisely because of her hard work that she became Mizukage at the age of less than 30 and as a weak woman. But I am afraid that she can snatch Kirigakur back from Obito, not because the battle was won. It was because Obito was already busy preparing for Project Tsukinomi at that time, and didn't bother to pay attention to Kirigakur. That's why Terumi Mei succeeded. Do you want to come to Konoha? Wu En's words were astonishing, and Terumi Mei's beautiful eyes widened like copper bells as soon as they were said. Anko beside him blinked and looked at Wu En in disbelief. Rather than fleeing in the country of water, it is better to establish an alliance with Konoha in advance, and then Konoha Zumbu and other organizations will assist you in organizing a rebel party that also wants to overthrow Yagura's rule. Much more efficient, right? Wu En said again. Then when you succeed, you will establish a formal alliance with Konoha as 5th Mizukage. Terumi Mei's mouth was long and stunned. After a while, he returned to God with a complex expression. If you follow the method you said, it is indeed much more efficient than acting alone, but why do you want to do this? I heard that Konoha's, the strongest man in the ninja world, is a man who doesn't care about fame or village interests. Anko curled his lips. Cut, because you are a beauty. Puff. As soon as Anko said this, Wu En directly gave her a thump. Kaido, if you insist on explaining, it should be said that I have some sympathy for you. This is really true, even ignoring the charm of Terumi Mei as a woman. Being able to secretly pull up an insurgent army under Obito's control, and finally become 5th Mizukage, is very impressive in itself, even if there are missing ingredients in it. It was in stark contrast to 4th Reikage, who was full of muscles. Of course, N.A.N does not deny that there is also Terumi Mei's own charm bonus. Sympathy? Terumi Mei whispered. For a genius like her, sympathy is really an unpleasant word, but comparing the efficiency of his own personal actions and Konoha's teamwork, Terumi Mei, the future Mizukage, naturally knows how to choose. I agree with your suggestion. Although I can't offer any reciprocal conditions of alliance right now, if there is anything I can do, please do not hesitate to give orders. With that said, Terumi Mei bowed her head to N.A.N in a standard kneeling position. Let's go then. N.A.N didn't say much. After smiling, he returned to Konoha village, Land of Fire, with Anko, and an additional Terumi Mei. The boats of the water country do not go out now. But in the end, people are afraid of death. When Anko put Samehada around the boatman's neck, he just didn't want to drive, but he could only drive. When Terumi Mei saw Samehada used by Anko, his heart moved. Unexpectedly, Samehada, which was taken away in the Third Ninja War, was used by such a girl younger than herself. Lee is good, and it's inexplicably good. After returning to the Land of Fire and disembarking, Terumi Mei threw a banknote to the boatman enough to live in the Land of Fire for half a year. Terumi Mei knows very well that if he goes back to the water country like this, he will definitely be killed. The era of the Blood Mist village was so terrifying. A few days later, N.A.N and the three returned to Konoha. Without Tsunade's summons, I would never go to N.A.N in the Hokage building. This time, he took the initiative to visit. I briefly explained Terumi Mei's matter to Tsunade. With reason, Tsunade could not pick out any reason for rejection. The only uncomfortable place is this future 5th Mizukage candidate Terumi Mei. Isn't it too good looking? Not to mention the 5 senses, even the figure does not lose much to himself. More importantly, they are basically the same age as N.A.N. Terumi Mei certainly cannot be arranged to live with N.A.N. Tsunade gave her VIP level treatment and arranged a private house on the corner of Konoha village. After all, Terumi Mei, as the future 5th Mizukage, signed an alliance with Konoha in advance, and it is not convenient to be too public. As for assisting Terumi Mei in searching for her compatriots who want to resist the rule of Yagura in the water country, Tsunade was handed over to Umbu headed by Namikaze Minato. By the way, Namikaze Minato and Kakashi are both members of Umbu. Although Namikaze Minato is already very famous, no one is more suitable for this position except him. Of course, it doesn't mean that Terumi Mei is just sitting there and enjoying her success, she still goes there often. What's wrong? In a bad mood? After Tsunade came back that night, N.A.N keenly sensed her emotions and took the initiative to move forward. No, Tsunade tilted his head to the other side. The reason N.A.N brought Terumi Mei back was reasonable, and she couldn't find a reason to refute it. Tsunade can't always say that he has a small mood, and the future 5th Mizukage brought back by N.A.N is so beautiful, isn't it? Although N.A.N doesn't understand women's minds so much, he can still see Tsunade's 523 points of careful thinking. When Tsunade was about to lift his jaw, he picked it up in front of him and stopped his mouth. Unconsciously, the time came to Konoha in 53 years. Xiaoqian, such as Uzumaki Naruto, Uchiha Suzuki, Harano Sakura, has reached the age of enrollment. Hyuga Niji, Tenten and Rock Lee have been enrolled for 1 year. Because there is no clue of war now, it is completely in an era of peace. Therefore, most students in ninja school are not in a hurry to graduate. Of course, there is another reason that the strength of the students in recent years has not reached that level. Naruto, be good at school. Kushina took Huang Mao Naruto to the school. When he saw the person standing in front, he greeted him actively, Chief Fugaku, long time no see. Standing in front, leading the 2 pillars, is the patriarch of the Uchiha family, Uchiha Fugaku. Hello, Mrs. Namikaze. Uchiha Fugaku nodded, and Nizu Zi and Huang Mao met at this moment. 2 seconds later, the 2 hummed in unison and turned their heads to the other side. I don't know why, seeing this guy on the other side made them feel upset. I'm afraid this is the natural opponent for it. Uchiha Fugaku didn't care about the confrontation between the 2 little ghosts, and asked, didn't Minato come here in person? Kushina glanced at her son and smiled and said, because there is a very important task. I don't know the specific content. It is said to be an extremely important confidential task. Really? I understand, Minato is so favored by the 4th generation, he must have been designated as 5th Hokage, right? When Uchiha Fugaku said these words, it was still the poker face. Kushina's rough nerves didn't see any problems, just politely said, where, Patriarch Fugaku was too rewarding. If it is Uchiha Mikato or Uchiha Itachi who is familiar with Uchiha Fugaku see it, you will find that a trace of resentment flashes through Uchiha Fugaku's eyes. That's right, the next Hokage will probably be Namikaze Minato, and the next one, even if it is not N.A.N, will basically have nothing to do with Uchiha Fugaku. Now the situation in the family has made him burn out, and the pressure is increasing, making Uchiha Fugaku feel a little about to collapse. However, Naruto unceremoniously pushed his waist down. That still needs to be said. My dad will definitely become Hokage, and then I will inherit my dad's name and become the 6th Hokage. Under the influence of Namikaze Minato, Naruto is full of yearning for Hokage's position as the original CDDD. Nonsense. The next generation of Hokage must be my father, then my brother, and then me. Sasuke exclaimed angrily. What are you talking about? A nasty guy with a stinky face. You hate it. The Chi-Jong guy. With that, the two directly fought. It attracted the attention of many freshmen and their accompanying parents. Uchiha Fugaku and Kushina hurriedly pulled them apart. Kushina gave her son another blow, and Uchiha Fugaku's indifferent eyes were enough to calm Sasuke. So lively? A laughing voice came, and the villagers around hurriedly saluted and shouted, Master Wuan! Master Wuan! Master Wuan! Miss Hinata! The visitor was Wuan, who was holding 5-year-old Hinata. Unlike the original book, Hinata at this moment is not the kind of short hair, but a passing shoulder wave similar to a blogger's turn. I believe that within 3 years, it will grow into long waist-length hair like Shifeng Xuan. Compared with the 12-year-old Hinata's hairstyle, Wuan still prefers Hinata's hair to be slightly longer, so she asked her to store up her hair 2 years ago. Master Wuan! Uchiha Fugaku and Kushina nodded at the same time. Regardless of age, strength and merit are the key to determining status. It's been a long time. Wuan smiled. Ms. Wuan, can you let me down? Feeling being held by Wuan in front of so many people, Hinata blushed unknowingly. Wuan chuckled and put Hinata down. Noticing Sasuke and Naruto who were looking towards him, without lowering their own volume, they pointed to Naruto and Sasuke to Hinata. Hinata, you have to pay attention to these two guys. One has a long and stinking face all day long. He definitely knows to run out after getting married, and he doesn't know what it will cause you to be a savage man. The other has a silly look, he is definitely just looking at work all day, and even his wife is a fool who doesn't know how to accompany him. If you are looking for a boyfriend, you should never look for them. When Hinata heard this, her little face blushed and she lowered her pretty face deeply, like an ostrich. Hole. Who are you, stupid? Naruto was angrily and wanted to rush over to do it. Sasuke was not unlike him, but his expression and eyes were obviously angry. Uchiha Fugaku and Kushina have given up treatment. They have long understood Wuan's style of acting. If you really want to care about it, if you don't get angry, you will be beaten to death. This is what you want me to see? In a ninja building next to the ninja school, looking at the school playground, Wuan suppressed his desire to beat someone to the mic guy next to him. On the playground, a group of students who are only about 6 years old are training for running. One of them was wearing a white training suit with thick eyebrows similar to Bruce Lee's hairstyle, which was especially conspicuous among the crowd. Mic guy said with excitement, how? N.A.N. That kid, although he doesn't know any ninjutsu and illusion, but he still doesn't give up his belief in being a ninja. This is youth dash. Might Guy snots his brother and tears said. Wuan raised his eyebrows. Originally, Might Guy rarely invited him and said he wanted to see something good, but he didn't expect it to be this. Suddenly Wuan wanted to punch his nose, which still had a mucus. Quack! Suddenly, a crow's cry attracted Wuan's attention. On the opposite telephone pole, several crows that looked normal were screaming. Really, it's unlucky to hear the crow cry in the morning, but it's also a part of youth. Speaking of the back, Might Guy was excited again. Go youth by yourself, I'm leaving. After that, Wuan has disappeared without waiting for Might Guy to stop it. It didn't take long for him to appear on the top of the back mountain of the Uchiha clan. Ms. Wu-An. Master Wu-An. When Wuan arrived, the two Uchiha teenagers who had been waiting here for a long time knelt together on one knee. Wuan directly sat down on a rock on the lawn opposite the two and said with a false eye, "You two, didn't I say I don't want to care about Uchiha's troubles?" These two teenagers are Uchiha Shisui and Uchiha Itachi. It's been months since we last met, right? As Shisui joined the Uchiha Guard, the number of times the master and disciple met gradually decreased, and the interval between each meeting increased. Teacher, Itachi has officially decided to join Konoha Umbu. From now on I will be in the Uchiha Guard, and he will be in Umbu. According to the patriarch and many elders, he wants Itachi to become a hidden spy on the Hokage faction. Shisui explained. So, what do the spies want to do with me now? Wu and Kaido. Itachi said, we want to find the balance between Konoha and Uchiha as much as possible. I will report Uchiha's every move to Master Hokage. I ask Mr. Hokage to adopt appropriate measures to let the peace between Konoha and Uchiha go down in my daily life. Therefore, I also hope Mr. Wuan can act as a deterrent to Uchiha. This is really a cure for the symptoms but not the root cause. How long can you balance this trick? Wuan remembered a sentence he had heard in his previous life: people can ignore all laws in the world for 100% benefit, and they can spare their lives for 300% benefit. Konoha has been building the village for more than 50 years, and the Uchiha clan has been suppressed for more than 50 years. This has long been more than 300%. Don't talk about Wuon, it is Senju Hashirama's rebirth, and his mighty power may not stop Uchiha. Shisui said in a deep voice, this is the only way Mai and Itachi can think of, please make it through, teacher. Wuon thought silently for 5 seconds, Kaido, if it becomes irretrievable, I will still solve the matter from Konoha's perspective. Although Wuon doesn't care what Konoha is doing, it is obvious if he insists on choosing between Konoha and Uchiha. What's more, Konoha is now in charge of his own woman, not to mention it. Thank you teacher, Master Wuon, Shisui and Itachi replied at the same time. They didn't think Wuon would be on Uchiha's side at the beginning of the game. This afternoon, Suzuki had just returned home from school when he heard the excited voice of his father Uchiha Fugaku from the house. Ha ha ha, you are indeed my child. After Uchiha Kagami, you are still the first Uchiha to enter Umbu. Don't let me down, do it well. Yes, my father. Itachi's voice followed, but compared with his father's excitement, he appeared calmer, even a little cold. However, Suzuki did not notice Itachi's tone of voice. While having endless longing for a good brother, I also felt a little lost. When can my father praise himself like his brother? The evening sun. Inside the courtyard of Wuon's home, Hinata, wearing a tights from the Hyuga family, stood opposite Wuon and rushed towards Wuon with a small fist that was not much bigger than a tennis ball. Footsteps are too messy, Hinata, and don't think about seeing it with Byakugan, but feel it with your own chakra. Wuon grinned. Although Hinata's fist hits him, it doesn't even count as a massage, but in order to help Hinata train, Wuon still chose to dodge. At this time, the sweat that fell on Hinata's body wetted most of the practice clothes. Even so, he still gritted his teeth and said, yes. Nearly 40 minutes passed. Hinata was hugged by Hinata and sat on the corridor floor. Really, I practice like this again. Hinata comes over, I will change your clothes, and then go take a shower. At this moment, Shirihong walked out of the kitchen with a fruit plate and looked at Hinata, who was sweating profusely. She was about to pick her up, and said, too much sweat is not easy to deal with, and it is easy to catch cold and get sick. A 20-year-old man has the same tone as an old woman. Wuon lay on the floor and said. Tarihan gave him a bad look, and walked to the bathroom with Hinata in his arms, and said, go, Hinata, ignore that bad thing. By the way, the current overall ranking of the first grade results of the ninja school, first place Hyuga Hinata, second place Uchiha Suzuki, 12th place Uzumaki Naruto, but Wuon knew that this was only temporary. Naruto, these two wall hangings, as they grow older, will definitely surpass Hinata at a pervert speed. Unless Hinata also obtains the evolution of the bloodline level, it will never reach the level of these two hanging walls. Big, according to Wuon's memory, Itachi killed the Uchiha clan when he was 13 years old. That is, Suzuki is 8 years old. However, from Konoha 56 to Konoha 57, Suzuki has also gone from 8 to 9 years old, and there is still no Uchiha extermination incident, which shows that the storm that Wuon Fan has indeed changed a lot of the plot. However, the seeds of Uchiha's hatred were planted from the second Hokage Senju Tobirama's reign, and even in first Hokage Senju Hashirama's period, they were seen by Uchiha Madara. It is not that simple to pull out completely. Time came to Konoha at the end of 57 unknowingly. At this time, he was 14 years old and his face was relatively mature. As the Umbu team leader, Uchiha Itachi knelt on one knee in front of Tsunade in Hokage's office, and said solemnly, Hokage Big 523 people, more and more dissatisfaction voices are accumulating in the clan at present. According to my guess, it has reached the point where it has to be stopped. Tsunade rubbed his 6 sun points with jade fingers with a headache. Since sitting in this position of Hokage, she feels that she has gradually started to suffer from headaches. Especially the Uchiha incident is the most troublesome thing for her. And Tsunade, who belongs to the Senju clan, naturally knows Uchiha, the evil seed that was planted as early as the beginning of the village. Even if the interference caused by Wuon's little behavior, and Tsunade's superiority reduced the germination speed of this seed, but in the end, it still sprouted. Itachi, how can you let Uchiha dispel their rebellious thoughts if you think about it? Tsunade tried to kick the ball to Itachi and said. Itachi frowned, I'm afraid that only the Uchiha clan will give birth to a Hokage, right? Then, is there anyone in the Uchiha clan who is qualified for the position of Hokage? Tsunade asked again. Itachi frowned fiercely again, shook his head and said, nothing. Uchiha Fugaku, his father is also the current patriarch of Uchiha. Itachi knew how much talent his father had, and he was not enough to serve as Hokage, and he did not have the merits of Wuon or Namikaze Minato during the Third Ninja War. Even if Tsunade gave him the position, he couldn't sit still, and Shisui and Itachi didn't dare to be proud of themselves, and they were even less qualified. There is also Wuon on his head who didn't speak, so it was impossible for them to take turns. As for the other Uchiha people, there is no need to mention them. Called Tsunade exhaled heavily and said, forget it, as the double agent between Konoha and Uchiha, you are already very tired, so let's go and rest. Yes. Itaki lowered his head in response and disappeared with the body flicker technique. However, just when Itaki went to Umbu and was about to change his clothes into casual clothes, the adult who has not yet stepped into Umbu, there was another ninja wearing an Umbu mask beside him coldly said, Uchiha Itaki, my lord has an order, come with me. Itaki looked coldly, and said solemnly, you don't seem to be from Umbu, are you? At the same time, the training ground just outside Konoha village. What should I do if it's irreversible? Teacher. Coincidentally, at this moment, Uchiha Shisui, who is the deputy captain of the Konoha Guard, also asked similar questions to N.A.N. This year, he is 17 years old, and he has become famous in the ninja world as Shishin Shisui and Uchiha's strongest phantom ninja. Moreover, as the Uchiha Guards, he is second only to Uchiha Fugaku, and he has performed S-class missions on behalf of Uchiha many times and has never failed. The status of the Uchiha clan has also risen. To be honest, if there is no N, maybe the Uchiha clan would not be so eager to move. It's simple, because N's age is different. Shisui and Itaki are not far away. Shisui is 6 years old, and Shisui is 9 years old. Having a peer pressure on the head, especially for someone who wants to be a Hokage, is a huge pressure. Shinmura Danzo is a good example. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was the same age as him and crushed him everywhere, became Hokage. Even if Sarutobi Hiruzen is dead, how many years will Shinmura Danzo live well? No matter how talented Shisui and Itaki are now, they can't compare to N. Although N has always shown no interest in the position of Hokage, who can tell? Besides, there is another Namikaze Minato. N glanced at Shisui's black pupils. Although I don't know what Shisui went through in the original work, Mangekyo Sharingan awakened. But now, he is not awakened. In other words, the strongest illusion technique distinguished heavenly gods is no longer available. As the seeds of resentment planted by the Uchiha clan from the beginning of the village began to sprout, Shisui and Itaki became more and more anxious. Shisui, you are no longer a kid, think about it yourself. N said flatly. It's not that he is cold-blooded, but he can't help it. If N really wants to take action, it is nothing more than two solutions. First, let Tsunade give up Hokage's position. But even if Tsunade is willing to let Hayaga, Inoshikacho, Kenjia, Abarame, are so many big families willing? Is the daimyo of the country of fire okay? I want to know that this is impossible. Second, let N take the shot to get rid of Uchiha's opposition. This is even more impossible. There are always more solutions than problems. When the day is irreversible, I believe you will make a decision. Patting Shisui on the shoulder, N disappeared and returned to Konoha. Shisui, who was left alone in the training ground, secretly squeezed his fist, gritted his teeth and said to himself, just stepping into Konoha, didn't take a few steps. A female voice that made the bones 3.3 weaker came from the right side, and N looked to the right with a chuckle, and replied without evasiveness, oh, Ming, I feel beautiful again. The visitor had a dark blue dress, which showed the Heat's figure to the fullest. Compared with the first time we met, it was Terumi Mei. Every time and will please others like this. Terumi Mei stroked her crumbs, exuding the breath of natural brow bones all over her body. It makes people feel like giving you a hot mouth. N turned over Byakugan, knowing that Terumi Mei is just a strong-mouthed king, only talking verbally. However, although Terumi Mei puts this sentence on the lips from time to time, facing different objects, the inner thoughts are quite different. On the corner of Konoha village, a spacious private residence. This is the house where Tsunade sent Terumi Mei to Konoha after N brought her to live. Terumi Mei also lived here for more than 5 years in one breath. But it's time to leave. Inviting N here, Terumi Mei personally poured him a cup of tea, and smiled. Recently, with the help of Tsunade-sama, I have established an uprising of about 800 people headed by AO. With the assistance of Konoha, I believe that Yagura's reign of terror can be overthrown. N recalled. It is less than 3 years since the beginning of the plot. According to the rough calculation of the timeline, even if Terumi Mei and the others don't do it, Obito should run away. But of course he couldn't say it, just a normal look, and smiled lightly. Call me together then, it can definitely be resolved. Terumi Mei's beautiful eyes were startled, and sincerely thanked N. If you hadn't brought me to Konoha back then, I don't know if there is such an opportunity, thank you. Never mind these vain things, if you can successfully recapture Miss Shinobi, can you really give me a fiery mouth? N smiled with teeth. Although I don't know how many times I heard Terumi Mei say this in these years, I really haven't tried it. However, when Terumi Mei heard this, her heart trembled. After pursing his lips and tangling for a while, he slowly printed his scraps on the corners of N's mouth. In a brief period of astonishment, after a few seconds, N reacted and looked at Terumi Mei, who had already bowed his head and couldn't see his expression, playing with the taste. Is this a payment in advance? But it feels like I haven't gotten to the right place yet. After trimming her hair to relieve the inner wrinkles, Terumi reluctantly assumed the usual arrogant Oni-san posture, stroking her shield. "But just thank you, don't think too much." A swirling atmosphere permeated. Terumi couldn't stand it at first, and fleeing to get up and walk out the door. I'm going for a walk." "Didn't you just come back?" Wooen was speechless, and after Terumi slipped away, she got up and returned home. Why doesn't smell like Terumi, a dead woman? When Wooen returned home, Tsunade hadn't finished Hokage's affairs, and Hong took Hinata out of the house in all likelihood. Instead, Anko posted it up, and the ghost used his nose to sniff Wooen a few times. "Are you from the N.A.N. family?" Wooen was full of black lines. "Hey, don't worry, I'm not the kind of jealous woman who likes to be idle, and I can help you cover it up." Anko's eyes gurgled, an expression of evil intentions. How to cover up? Wooen directly prepared to get up and rinse with water a few times. If it is smelled by Red or Tsunade, it is really not good. Especially Tsunade. I don't know if it's because one is Hokage and the other is Mizukage. The relationship between fire and water is incompatible. Every time the two women meet, they seem to be polite on the surface, but Wooen can perceive the true emotional aura they secretly exude by seeing and hearing. Anko smirked and sat on Wooen and flung his coat aside. "That is, change to my taste." "Teacher." I don't know why, Anko always likes to call Wooen teacher when doing such things. Although it is strange, Wooen enjoys it. Tonight, 9-year-old Suzuki got up to go to the bathroom, but unexpectedly, there was a conversation between his brother and his father in the next hall. Just listen to Uchiha Fugaku's voice expressing a deeper seriousness than before. "Itake, the information you brought back has gradually decreased recently, what's the matter?" But Itake's tone was unprecedentedly cold, even indifferent. "It's nothing, it's just that there is really nothing to report." On the opposite side, Uchiha Fugaku was silent for a while, and said in a deep voice, "Itake, don't forget that you are a bridge between Uchiha and the village." Itake didn't answer directly, instead he said, "Suzuki, go back to sleep after going to the toilet." When Uchiha Fugaku and Suzuki heard this, they were taken aback at the same time. Suzuki hurriedly replied yes and ran back to his room. What Wooen didn't expect was that Shisui took the initiative to find herself again in just a week. If you know, in order to avoid being overthinked by the Uchiha clan, it is common for two people not to see each other for a month or two. When Wooen came to the public training ground outside Konoha village, this time, not only Shisui but also Itake and Umbu costume was also there. "The last time you two appeared in front of me together, it was already a year ago, right? What wind was blowing?" Wooen stepped forward and asked. "Teacher, Danzo contacted Itake a few days ago." As soon as Shisui said this, Wu 523 immediately raised his brows. "Danzo, it's a name I haven't heard for years. Almost told myself to forget." Itake said, "Yes, he discussed with me about the next Uchiha clan's direction, saying that if he is willing to persuade Uchiha to leave Konoha, he can help Uchiha escape Konoha and become king and others." Ha ha ha. After Wooen heard it, he couldn't help laughing, and even felt his stomach hurt with laughter. After a while, Wooen asked, "Then, in your opinion, what kind of calculation is this old thing?" Shisui said in a deep voice, "He probably wants to overthrow the rule of Tsunade-sama. After all, if there is such an incident of a collective defection from the ninja village, Hokage will not be able to escape responsibility, and if one is not dealt with, it may become the fourth time. The fuse of the ninja world war." Rongye solemnly said, "And even with Danzo's help, Uchiha can't stand on his own as the king of the mountain. The ninja world doesn't know how many people covet the power of Uchiha's bloodline. This old guy, I know he won't wait to die honestly." Wooen sneered, "It's just right, take this opportunity to kill them all together." Konoha 58 years. Konoha Xiaoqian has gradually entered the first decade of life. But none of them noticed that in the secret grounds of the village, the dark Uzumaki was getting bigger and bigger. Inside Hokage's office, Tsunade looked solemnly and sat on the Hokage office chair. Namikaze Minato's expression was also extremely solemn, standing on the other side, and Wooen is sitting on the sofa next to the desk. These three people basically represent the three most powerful people in Konoha. In the middle of the office, Uchiha Itake and Uchiha Shisui were kneeling in front of Tsunade on one knee. "Hokage-sama, it can already be fully confirmed that Uchiha intends to launch a revolution in the village," Itake said solemnly. "What about their plan?" Tsunade Lu asked with a tight eyebrow. "There are two plans. The first is to take advantage of Konoha's division of troops to assist Miss Shinobi in attacking 4th Mizukage Yagura and seize the opportunity to seize power. The second hand is to grab Senior Nine-Tails Jinchuriki Kushina and use Sharingan's power to forcefully release Nine-Tails." After hearing it, Namikaze Minato's face fused. He didn't expect that it was only 10 years later that he had the idea of someone touching his wife again. All tricks are tough, damn it. Tsunade gritted his teeth. Itaki had an indifferent tone, but his eyes were extremely firm, as if he had made a certain determination, and then said, Master Hokage, Uchiha today is incurable, so I will bear it alone, let Uchiha completely withdraw from the stage of history. Hearing Itaka's words, Tsunade and Namikaze Minato couldn't help feeling like goosebumps surge. They didn't expect that Itaki would be willing to do this step. Itaki, you don't have to do this step. Namikaze Minato persuaded, it's better to think of another way. Itaki shook his head, whether it is to let Uchiha leave Konoha to stand on his own, or to engage in political resistance, we have tried countless possibilities, without exception, the ending is the same, the difference is just death in different hands. That's it. At least so withdrawing from the stage of history, Uchiha is still a glorious family, not a decayed family. As he said, Itaki raised his head, Master Hokage, I have a request. After I become a rebel, Konoha can protect the last remaining Uchiha. Tsunade guessed what Itaki wanted to say, and nodded, Suzuki. I see. I hope that he will never know the truth, and even in the future, he can help the traitor of my clan and become the hero of the village. Hearing Itaka's words, Shisui had already shed tears unknowingly. All this, let me bear it. Itaka said solemnly. Be the first to disappear. Shisui was already crying. Why did it become like this in the end? Wuen said at this moment, Shisui, that matter, I'll leave it to you. Shisui wiped away the tears, stood up, nodded and said, I see, teacher. Itaki and Shisui left one after another. Namikaze Minato couldn't help sighing, is there really no solution? Even Tsunade, it is rare to show sadness, if there is, I don't want to. Wuen stood up from the sofa at this moment and said, just keep the sadness for later, we also have to get rid of Konoha's last tumor. At night, the scimitar made the moon shine over Konoha village. Uchiha Itaki, dressed in umbu but not wearing a mask, stood on a telegraph pole in the Uchiha clanland, calmly looking at the clanland below. When he used his pair of scarlet 3-tomo Sharingan to notice a familiar chakra approaching the clanland, he knew that he could not drag on. In the woods outside the Uchiha clan, several root ninjas are hiding inside, observing all this secretly. Among them are the ninjas of the Yamanaka clan, who use the secret arts of the Yamanaka clan to convey the news to Danzo as soon as possible. Master Danzo, Uchiha Itaki has entered the Uchiha clan, but his specific plan is unclear. This person's name is Yamanaka Wind, and yes, he is one of the guards who accompanied Danzo in the Five Shadows conference in the original book. At this time, he used the secret technique of the Yamanaka clan to report the information to Danzo like a phone call. So pretty? Can you add me? Suddenly, there was a sound like a death knell in hell. Yamanaka Fang turned his head and looked, just in time to see Wuen's smiling face. Yamanaka Fang looked shocked and almost fell from the tree. However, it doesn't need to be so troublesome. Wuen has kicked him off the tree with one kick. When Yamanaka Wind hit the ground hard, Wuen also jumped in front of him, stepped on his throat, smiled as before, I'll ask you again, is it pretty? Yamanaka Fang raised his hand hard, trying to make a sound. However, the more he wanted to make a sound, the stronger Wuen stepped on his neck. In the end, under such painful death, Yamanaka Fang died. Suddenly, several golden lights flashed from behind Wu An. Several more root ninjas fell from the woods. And the other person who fell on the ground safely is Namikaze Minato. Don't leave one, Brother Minato, I'll leave it to you here. I'll go and pull out the other two malignant tumors. With that, Wuen left the outskirts of the Uchiha clan directly. At the same time, the root is in the underground base. Danzo furrowed his eyebrows, and his heart began to feel uneasy. Because he couldn't hear the voice of Yamanaka Fang using the spirit technique, Li Lihao. Although he wanted to call, the secret technique only allowed Yamanaka Fang to convey the voice to Danzo, but he couldn't accept Danzo's voice. Rumble. At this moment, there was a loud noise outside Danzo's room. Danzo's face changed, and he rushed out. I saw that under the powerful fire-style ninjutsu, 5 or 6 root ninjas were blasted out. In the sea of fire, a black shadow holding a short sword slowly approached his side. Danzo's face changed drastically. Uchiha Shisui, do you know what you are doing? Level. Shisui does not have the cheerfulness of the past. Instead, it is endless indifference. This is what Hokage-sama and Wuen mean, for Konoha, for the entire ninja world, as you always like to say, Lord Danzo, please go that world. What a joke, Danzo roared. The homes of Yutaten Koharu and Mito Kato Homura are very close. They are not from a large family. After they are old, for the convenience of communication, it may also be because the elderly want to be a company together. So I chose to live closer. I don't know if it is the reason for being in a high position all year round. Both people's instincts are quite sensitive. Originally, because of age, the old people went to bed very early, but tonight, both of them couldn't sleep late. Mito Kato Homura changed into casual clothes and went to the courtyard of Yutaten Koharu's house. Seeing Yutaten Koharu standing in the courtyard, he couldn't help but froze and asked, Koharu, you didn't sleep either? Yutaten Koharu nodded, and the two sat down on the stone benches in the courtyard one after another. There is no electric light, but the moonlight from the crescent moon in the night sky is enough. I don't know why, I always feel a little uneasy. Yuta Kohara frowned and whispered, then asked again, how is Danzo going? You are persuading Uchiha Itachi, but the kid did not reply, but I think it is just a matter of time. Although Mito Homura is very bad at 523, as Konoha's leading politician, he is still very confident in the control of people's hearts. He believes that Itachi will definitely not be able to bear the pressure and accept Danzo's suggestion. Either join his father's camp and fight Konoha hard, or take the Uchiha clan to betray Konoha. No matter what Itachi's choice is, it is enough to shake Tsunade's position as Hokage. However, he did not expect that Itachi is not an ordinary person. He chose a sure path that could not tolerate his turning back. Yuta Kohara was still a little uneasy, and continued, even if Tsunade steps down, there is still a Namikaze Minato. It is not easy to ask Hiruzen to return or let Danzo take the lead. Mito Homura shook his head. Namikaze Minato is still better to deal with than Tsunade. Even if he finally becomes the 5th Hokage, it is good news for us, but I don't think you can wait for the good news to arrive. Suddenly there was a sound that made the two of them almost fall off the stone chair. Mito Homura and Yuta Kohara turned their heads and looked. They saw that under the light of the moon, Wu, CDDD, and was sitting on the wall of the courtyard for some time. Wu and you. Because of excessive surprise, Mito Homura couldn't even say a complete sentence clearly, and Yuta Kohara was completely stunned. Don't panic, right now you will never need to worry about this kind of thing. Wuan chuckled lightly. Wuan, what on earth do you want to do? Although I had vaguely guessed something in my heart, Mito Homura couldn't help asking. He is Konoha's highest government affairs. Although he wants to add the word now, he, who has been in a high position for many years, never believes that Wuan really dares to do so. What are you doing, teacher? Wuan just said 3 words. At this time, Shisui appeared beside Wuan with the body flicker technique. The clothes on his body were torn apart a lot, and the wounds in it were bursting with blood from time to time. Obviously, it was a great battle. Are you done? Wuan asked with a faint smile. Shisui wiped the bloodline on his face, and said solemnly, Danzo is dead. Yuta Kohara and Mito Homura were shocked, pointed at Shisui in disbelief, and shouted, Uchiha Shisui, you actually gave Danzo to really? Wuan smiled and said, why are you so surprised? You two are going to meet Danzo soon. Mito Homura and Yuta Kohara were struck by lightning, and then roared, impossible. You can't do this. Everything we have done for Konoha over the years, do you think it can be easily erased? Kill us, do you think you and Tsunade's position can be kept? Wuan pulled out the short blade directly from the scabbard behind Shisui, and said with a smile, you were not killed by me, it was Konoha's rebellion, Uchiha Shisui killed it. Holding Shisui's knife, he walked close to them. Yuta Kohara and Mito Homura also realized at this time that Wuan came for real. In the original, they buckled the destroyed pot of the Uchiha clan on Shisui's head, and now Wuan buckled their dead pot on Shisui's head. I have to say that causality may really exist. Wuan was approaching, but the two of them were backing away. Then, he retreated to the pond and fell into the pond without notice. The two embarrassed saw that Wuan was already standing by the pond, and the short blade in his hand was shining with lethal killing intent in the moonlight. Stop, Wuan. The two of us have completely withdrawn from the Konoha political circle, have you forgotten? Yes, it is no longer possible for us to threaten you and Tsunade. Why do you insist on taking our lives? The two heard that Danzo was dead, and knew that their status would never be restored. But at least, they want to save one of their lives. It's really ugly. You who regard human lives as haystacks, if you can die with a little bit of spine, maybe I can still have a little respect for you. Wuan is too lazy to talk nonsense with these two old immortals. The hand lifted the knife and fell, and directly chopped off their heads. When the two heads fell, their eyes were still open, revealing their unwillingness to death. Wuan flicked, and short sword made 2 laps in the air, and then accurately inserted it back into the scabbard behind Shisui. The tumor removal operation was successful. Wuan said to himself, turning his back to Shisui. Go and witness Uchiha's last moments, Shisui. Wuan said slowly. Teacher, there will be a period later. Shisui was silent for a long time, and finally only said this sentence. At this time, the winter has not completely passed, and the evening weather is still very cold. But to Itachi, he couldn't feel it anymore. The blood on his body and the knife completely paralyzed his body and heart. When he walked into the house and opened the paper door, in the living room, the parents who should have fallen asleep. He was sitting cross-legged in the middle of the main hall, and he knew at a glance that he was waiting for him to return. Seeing this scene, N.A.N of Sangha Jade shrank suddenly. The father was as strict as always, and the mother was as gentle as always, as if they were normal, saying the same thing to him, you are back, Itachi. The cold blade pierced the body of Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha Mikato successively, and blood dripped down the blade. At the same time, the tears in the eyes of Itaki also dripped and merged with the blood of the blade. "You are really a very gentle child. Finally promise me one thing, Suzuki, please." The parents left their last regrets one after another, fell down repeatedly, and could never wake up. And in the eyes full of tears, a strange chakra surged up, turning the three-go jade into a triangular windmill. Boom! At this moment, a door opened sounded outside the door. Itaki was startled and quickly wiped away tears. "Brother, what the hell is going on?" Seeing his parents lying on the blood-filled ground, Suzuki was almost paralyzed in fright past. What a stupid brother. Itaki tried his best to show an indifferent attitude and opened his eyes again. Mangekyo Sheri nan Tsukuyomi. At the same time, inside Uchiha's clan, there was a strong smell of blood in the air. Shisui's eyes couldn't help but shed tears. When he opened his eyes, the three-go jade in his eyes turned into a four-cornered windmill. "It's finally on." Shisui's Mangekyo Sheri nan. Because of the passing of his beloved family, he opened his eyes with extreme pain. About 5 minutes later, at the gate of the Uchiha clan, Itaki arrived here and joined Shisui. Shisui just wanted to ask a question, but was interrupted by Itaki. "I have arranged it, don't worry. You don't need to bear it alone." Shisui couldn't bear to say. "One person is enough, there is no need to pull you into the water." Itaki shook his head. At this moment, Wuen's voice resounded throughout Konoha village. "Come on. Capture Uchiha Itaki, Uchiha Shisui." In an instant, Konoha's alarm bell rang. Itaki and Shisui knew that this was the signal Wuen gave them. After the two looked at each other, they turned around and fled Konoha as quickly as possible. Wuen and Namikaze Minato stood on the Uchiha tribe land full of corpses and blood. Wuen squatted down and checked their situation. With the eyes still there, it seems that Obito boy didn't come to fetch it. And Namikaze Minato also said just now that he had been patrolling in secret and did not find any outsiders coming. Namikaze Minato walked into Itaka's house and carried Suzuki out of a coma. "Send him to Konoha Hospital and explain it according to Itaki," Wuen said. Namikaze Minato couldn't bear to look at the child who was the same age as his son in his arms. "Is that really going to happen? I think he has the right to know the truth. I don't want to participate in the discussion of this issue. I will give it to you." The next incident of Uchiha's extermination by Itaki will resound in the ninja world, and some good people will be tempted to move. Wuen stood up and said, "I cooperated with Terumi Mei to take Kirigakure back, and then let the country of fire and the country of water establish an alliance, so that we can calm the group of idiots." Namikaze Minato nodded. "I see, Suzuki and Uchiha have to deal with the aftermath, so I'll leave it to me." The two left one after another and asked Umbu to collect the corpse and clean up the funeral. This seed of hatred, which has been planted since Second Hokage, or even when the village was built, eventually broke out 2 years later than the original work. Wuen admits that he has changed countless original plots, but the time that this seed was planted was much earlier than the time he crossed over. In the end, he only gave his disciple Shisui, but at least the eyes don't have to be transplanted to the old Danzo, which is also a lucky thing. With this sentence left, Wuen left the Uchiha clan and went to Terumi Mei's residence. On the next day, I was ready to unite Terumi Mei and the insurgents she had gathered over the years to launch an offensive against Yagura. The Uchiha clan is destroyed. This news, without a doubt, will shock Konoha, the country of fire, and even the entire ninja world. Coupled with the fact that Danzo, Yuditen Koharu, Mito Kato Homura, the three elders who once represented Konoha's highest authority, were assassinated by Uchiha Shisui, it will also cause a lot of trouble. But Wuen didn't want to deal with the follow-up process, and left it to Tsunade and Namikaze Minato to take care of it. He is still good at talking with his fists, so let's get things done with Miss Shinobi first. Achieved the special achievement, the seed of hatred that will eventually bloom. Template character Monkey D. Garp. Completion rate 98.09%. At this moment, the sound of the system sounded again. Wuen was stunned and couldn't help thinking, after Garp, there should be a new template character. I don't know who it is. Now it's pretty close to 100%. Yagura has perfect control of the power of three tails. Even if there is no cage level peak, there should be similar strengths. 2% should be enough. What changes will happen to the system at that time? Wuen is quite looking forward to it. In the forest of the country of fire, he successfully escaped from the pursuit of the Konoha chaser behind. It wasn't until noon the next day that Shisui and Itaki stopped. Shisui wiped the sweat from his head and panted, "What should I do next?" Itaki thought for a while and replied, "We can still collect information for Konoha, I think." Before the words of Itaki were finished, the two Uchiha's expressions changed at the same time, and they pulled out their short blade and kunao respectively, and shouted into the depths of the forest on the right, "Who is it? Don't be so nervous." The two Uchiha who turned on Mangekyo. In the depths of the forest, a mysterious man wearing a patterned mask with an eyelet on his right came out. Who are you? The color of guard on Itaka's face remained unchanged, and the black pupils had been transformed into a three-hooked jade. Once in danger, he will use Mangekyo Sharinan without hesitation. Don't be so nervous, Uchiha Itake, Uchiha Shisui, I recommend you to go to a good place. The masked man's tone had a slightly ridiculous smile. Shisui frowned, recalling what Wuan had said to him 2 days ago. If a freak wearing a mask approaches both of you, follow him and see if you can investigate anything. In a shrine at the border of the country of fire and the country of rain. Tendo Pain, Kakuzu, Sasori, Zetsu, Kisame and other members of the Shining Organization gathered here. As the two figures approached quickly, Tiendeo Pain said indifferently, the new member has arrived. Orochimaru, who also wore Akatsuki's uniform with red clouds and black bottoms, looked at the two people who had arrived, and couldn't help but exclaimed Uchiha Shisui. Uchiha Itake, a small village on the border of the water country. Wuan came here with Terumi Mei, and there are only a few Konoha shinobi who are relatively familiar with him. Heite Kakashi, Might Guy, Shiranui Genma basically, they are classmates. In addition to this, there are Inu's Jaws, Akamaika Tangdong and others who once served as the subordinates of Namikaze Water 523. Wuan is not familiar with Xiao Qian father-level characters, but Wuan felt that, except for the first two, those in the back were sufficient. Originally Anko wanted to come too, but considering that the same hat as she used was openly displayed in front of the people of Mist Shinobi, she was still removed. Although Terumi Mei has stated that same hata can be used by Anko, it is not suitable for you to hold the ambassador directly in front of the people of Mist Shinobi. More importantly, after the success of this battle, an alliance agreement between Konoha and Mist Shinobi will be signed. After going to the village, Wuan and Terumi Mei immediately saw the nearly 1,000 Mist Shinobi ninjas who had fought against the Third Ninja War. They are all opposed to Yagura's Blood Mist Rebellion, the rebels gathered by Terumi Mei over the years. Although they once fought against enemies in the ninja world, now that they can help themselves to recapture Mist Shinobi, it is naturally impossible for them to have any complaints. With regard to the gathering of people here, Wuan was certain that Obito had known through White Zetsu's heaven-defying intelligence-gathering ability. Judging from Obito's prudence and the situation of the original work, this is already a war that must be won. However, after Blacken, Obito, this guy has become more and more fond of tricks, so he still has to pay attention. The rebel army under Terumi Mei, plus the Konoha shinobi brought by N.A.N. unless Obito brings all the members of Akatsuki's organization, there is absolutely no chance of winning. His Kamui may be able to save his life, but it is definitely not enough for him to defeat so many ninja army. The army of 1,000 people is divided into 3 groups. They are led by Wuan, Terumi Mei and Ching. Wuan and Terumi Mei attack from 2 official roads to Kirigakure, and Ching is leading the perception force, bypassing the back path to cut off the back path of Yagura and his men. On the way to Mist Shinobi, Wuan suddenly smiled and said to Kakashi who was running behind him, Kakashi, this action, you may be able to harvest unexpected surprises. Kakashi was taken aback, and frowned, what do you mean? However, Wuan did not answer, which made Kakashi's heart itch, and couldn't help but mutter to himself, what the hell? Master Wuan, coming. A Hyuga ninja who was measuring blue veins with both eyes, Wuan shouted, 3 kilometers ahead, the estimated number is about 600 people. The Hyuga ninjas are named Hyuga Takuma, and they are considered to be the top 10 jonin in the Hyuga family. Had the corners of Wuan's mouth were slightly tilted, and when he saw Yagura's subordinates, conquerors inside his body suddenly escaped. Taste for an instant, I felt a strong sense of oppression, and the same living animals and plants were afraid. The trunks of many surrounding trees went directly in and out of the openings that seemed to have been split by an axe. Hyuga exclaimed, okay, so amazing, less than 100 people can be solved in an instant. No matter how many times I watched it, it was so shocking. Akamaike Danto exclaimed, even compared to Master First Hokage, it's not that far behind, right? Wuan said calmly, then what's left is that there are at least a special Jonin level ninja, and it's handed over to you. My goal is only Yagura. Ahead, the Mist Shinobi ninja who was not stunned by conquerors has rushed. The leader was an extremely young youth, a white-haired flounder holding one of the 7 Mist Shinobi swords. It seems that it is only between 15 and 20 years of age. Kakashi yelled, that's one of the 7 new Shinin swords, the ghost lantern is full of moon. Leaf strong whirlwind. Might Guy kicked it without showing any weakness. The footjin and the blade collide with each other, no difference. Might Guy raised his thumb, showed his white fang, and said with a smile, go ahead, N. Here we will deal with it. If I did, I would be able to kick this kid away just now. Wuan smiled and turned into an afterimage to quickly shuttle past these Mist Shinobi Jonin. And they didn't even say to stop it, and Wuan passed through them. When you turn around and want to catch up, Kakashi, Shiranui Genma, Inu's Jaw and other Konoha shinobi have rushed up. The two sides fought together. The speed of Terumi Mei's troops cannot surpass N.A.N. When Wuan arrived, the guards who guarded the Kirigakure mouth at the end naturally rushed up immediately. Facing the rushing mist shinobi guarding ninja, Wu simply squeezed his right fist and spit out 2 words from his mouth, bone broken. Bang! Like a shock wave of the punch of a mad wolf, these mist shinobi ninjas and Kirigakure's gates will fly together. Between the mist shinobi ninja lying on the ground and the fragments of the gate, Wu walked slowly into Kirigakure 3.3 and slapped it with his hand. Going back to the west becomes better. Puff puff. The voice just fell. Something strange suddenly drilled out of the ground beside Wu's feet. Looking down, it's Coral. Coral crawled on Wu's heel like a parasite.